Hi, I'm Hal Roberts. This is Bridge City News. Here are some of the top stories we're following. Alberta Health Services is concerned about a fatal COVID-19 outbreak at a long-term care home. We will tell you where. A Lethbridge man who battled and beat cancer is now running to raise more awareness of the disease. And medical professionals working with Samaritan's Purse have landed in the Bahamas to help those battling a second wave of the novel coronavirus.
Your nation. Your province. Your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Hal Roberts.
Thanks so much for joining us. Alberta Premier Jason Kenney is self-isolating at home after revealing that he was in close contact with someone who has COVID-19 on Monday. Kenney says he's been tested and is awaiting those test results. The province saw 860 new cases of the virus from just over 15,000 tests. There are now 225 COVID-19 patients in hospital, of which 51 are in ICU. There were 10 new deaths attributed to the virus as well. Premier Kenney said to slow the spread of the virus, new restrictions are being implemented beginning on Thursday until November the 27th. The province says it will suspend indoor group fitness programs, team sports, group performance activities, and reduce hours for bars and pubs. The measures will apply to Lethbridge, Calgary, Edmonton, Red Deer, Fort McMurray, and Grand Prairie. Alberta's Chief Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Dean Henshaw, says when it comes to the virus, more help is now available to speed up contact tracing.
We have to keep this effort up. Together with limiting our close contacts, maintaining physical distance, masking, and staying home when sick, the efficiency and completeness of our contact tracing efforts is critical to stemming new cases in Alberta. Today, AHS is launching a new online portal that will allow for automated texting of close contacts. This tool will further support Albertans and will help speed up contact tracing. Albertans who receive a positive COVID-19 result will be able to visit a new online tool on the AHS website, enter information and phone numbers of known close contacts, and submit this information. Once reviewed by the contact tracing team, including with the case, the tool will then send texts informing close contacts of their exposure and instructing them to isolate immediately for 14 days.
Alberta Health Services says it is working very closely with an Edmonton long-term care facility to manage a fatal COVID-19 outbreak there. The agency says the South Terrace Continuing Care Centre, which is owned and operated by Rivera, has 66 cases among residents and 66 active staff cases. 10 residents have died so far. The province says at least 20 long-term care homes and many other support living facilities are currently dealing with COVID-19 outbreaks. Meanwhile, here in Lethbridge, AHS has confirmed that Winston Churchill High School is on watch status. The agency says the school now has 6 cases of the novel coronavirus. The province puts a school on its watch list if there are 5 or more cases of the virus. The affected individuals have been contacted and are now self-isolating. The Lethbridge School Division says the school will remain open. Ontario posted another single-day record for COVID-19 infections with 1,575 new cases. Quebec, meanwhile, is reporting 1,365 new COVID-19 cases. The surging numbers in both provinces comes as Ontario prepares to release new pandemic modeling reports, and Manitoba goes into a partial lockdown. Manitoba has the largest per capita caseload of active infections in the country. The Alberta Urban Municipalities Association is throwing its support behind the fight by 4 cities to keep their city-run ambulance dispatch centres. Lethbridge, Red Deer, Calgary, and Wood Buffalo maintain the government's decision to consolidate EMS dispatch threatens people's health and safety. The association says it is asking Premier Kenney to overturn the decision made by Health Minister Tyler Shandro. The UCP says the change will save the province around $6 million annually and make the system more efficient. 2 Alberta farmers have taken legal action against Alphabo Energy Limited over allegedly delinquent annual lease agreement payments. Now, according to the class action lawsuit filed by Wolf Couts on behalf of Alberta property owners, drilling for oil and gas has resulted in significant damage to his land and the land of others. He says the Calgary-based company has failed to provide compensation as outlined in their contract.
What we're looking for here is fairness. There's a deal. You're supposed to be paying these individuals, and you're not. And so what we're doing is something called a class action. And what happens in a class action is that one person needs to stand up and say, this is wrong. What is happening here is wrong. And I am an example of what's happening being wrong. So use me as an example. And if you agree that what has been happening to me is in fact wrong, there are many other people who are in the same situation, and the court should help them too.
A deal is a deal. Without payment and the ongoing entry onto our land, my wife and I, along with many other landowners in Alberta, had no other option other than to pursue legal avenues. There are many, many family farms and landowners that have been forced into a position of weakness, hence cannot defend themselves against these large corporations.
Bridge City News reached out to Alphabo Energy, but is yet to hear back. The Interfaith Food Bank received a very generous donation from a local business. Mikado Electric has committed $100,000 over the next 5 years. The nonprofit's executive director, Daniel McIntyre, says donations like these are important for long-term sustainability of the organization.
Donation like this is exceptionally meaningful to us here at the food bank because it's offering some type of sustainability for us for the future. We are certainly in uncertain times right now, but we are expecting to very much need to be here to serve our community in the months to come, and we don't know what our future is going to be looking like. So it's wonderful to have a bit of security knowing that there's at least some money secured for food purchases.
Mikado Electric is being called the Interfaith's Food Bank Guardian. November is Canada Career Month. Even in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, Stats Canada says there have been employment increases in several industries, one of which is real estate. Bridge City News spoke with a leading real estate broker as to why becoming a realtor was so rewarding.
If it's in your heart to make a change, there's never a better time than right now. There's never a convenient time to do anything. Someone once told me about having children. The best time to have children is when you feel like it. If you wait till you're ready, you'll never have them. If you wait till you have enough money, you'll never have them. And it's the same with the change in careers. To me, the interesting things about real estate are that, first of all, in many cases, it's commission-based, and that just turns a lot of people off and it scares a lot of people. But if you're a self-starter and you're driven and you're keen to serve people at a really high level, it can be one of the greatest careers on the planet. And the greatest thing about it is that the barriers to entry are fairly low. It does take some money to get licensed, and it does take a fair amount of time and intelligence and hard work to get through the course. But ultimately, there's lots of resources out there to be successful once you are licensed and ready to go.
The Alberta Real Estate Association says there are now over 10,500 realtors and brokers across the province. Lethbridge police are asking for help in an assault investigation. Police say last Saturday a man entered a Tim Hortons on 13th Street North, sat down at a table, and appeared to fall asleep. Now, after an employee informed him repeatedly that he could not sleep in the restaurant, she asked him to leave. As he got up, he punched her in the face, causing swelling and damage to her dental work. If you've seen this man and have any information that can help police with their investigation, call Crime Stoppers right away at 1-800-222-8477. A Colehurst, Alberta man who beat cancer is now running across the province, raising awareness of the deadly disease. As video journalist Micah Quinn explains, he'll be receiving support from friends each and every step of the way.
10 years ago, Tyson Janczewski was diagnosed with testicular cancer, and he has since won his fight against it. Janczewski is running to inform people about cancer and to raise funds for research.
It's going to be interesting because I feel like I'm going to learn some new things about myself. On a family level, in the last 10 years, I lost my grandma to cancer, and just recently this year, I lost my uncle.
The run will start on November 14th at the BC border, where Janczewski will take the number 3 highway all the way to the Trans-Canada Highway and ending in Medicine Hat.
So the run's 201 miles. I think that's like 326 kilometers or something like that. So I don't know how long the run's actually going to be. I've never ran 200 miles before, but we're going to take it by feel, and we're just going to go at our own pace.
Janczewski's friend, Ryan Thornley, will join him for the run, along with other close friends. This run holds a personal meaning for Thornley.
Just 2 days ago now that I lost a long-term friend of mine to cancer, just early in the morning on Tuesday. And yeah, so the run for me has sort of taken on this new shape. It sort of started as something that I wanted to support Tyson in raising awareness for cancer research and funding. But now, it's partly carrying on that legacy of a friend of mine doing something that kind of makes meaning out of what he went through.
Yanchiski has raised over $5,000 through the Terry Fox Foundation for Cancer Research. For Bridge City News, I'm Micah Quinn.
In today's society, it's so important to help give children direction and to empower them to believe in themselves. That's according to Dana Holland, who's the founder of Bold and Brave, a business which instills confidence in today's young people. Holland says when it comes to helping children choose a career or a direction in life, education is so very important.
I want every teen that comes to know they're welcome, to know that they're able, to know that they can accomplish anything as long as they have grit and they pursue their dreams and they do the things they need to do, like get educated about things they're interested about. Okay, how do you do that? You go find somebody who knows about it and give them these tools and these skills to help them realize that really anything's possible regardless. I guess a huge part is regardless of your situation.
Catch the full interview with Dana Holland of Bold and Brave and Jeanette Rocher coming up later in our program. Lethbridge is one step closer to having a junior football team. The proposed Lethbridge Vipers would play in the Prairie Football Conference of the Canadian Junior Football League. As Ainsley O'Reilly explains now, this has been a long time coming and players are already eager to hit the field.
For the first time in 18 years, the Prairie Football Conference of the Canadian Junior Football League is expecting to have an expansion club, the hopeful franchise, Lethbridge Vipers.
We had a unanimous president's vote just a few weeks ago, so we just passed our second stage of approvals, so that is a really big step. So now we're going to the AGM in March, where this is where we basically present our case and why there should be a team here. We've had a lot of positivity coming out of some of the other franchises in the league.
I tell you, the one problem they will never have is talent, because Southern Alberta's had some great high school talent. And this is going to be really exciting to see when it comes through. And if they can make it through the pandemic like the rest of us, they'll be in great shape.
And we find the success of the junior teams in the areas across Canada, particularly on the prairies, is almost commensurate with the development of minor football. Flag football, touch football, and so on.
Southern Alberta has no shortage of football talent, and a local junior club will finally give players in the region the opportunity they've been waiting for.
Being in Lethbridge and being able to play football is a dream come true, honestly. My future's here, my career is here, and the opportunity to be able to stay here and play football it's great.
It would make me so happy to see somebody that I coached in high school or that's going to be on the Lethbridge Vipers football team in the CFL one day. And, you know, this is a community football team, but the big word there is community.
For Bridge City News, I'm Ainsley O'Reilly.
Sylvan Lake, Alberta received some wonderful news. The Central Alberta town announced that it will be hosting the 2021 Men's and Women's Provincial Curling Championships. The event will be taking place January 25th through the 31st. The men's format will involve a 12-team triple knockout with a page playoff, and the women will compete in an 8-team round robin. Organizers say it will not have a bubble format similar to the recent NHL season. Officials say according to current health guidelines, it will not be necessary since the non-delivering team will relinquish the sheet completely. The Liberal government is creating a new measure for young people in Hong Kong. It is a work permit designed to speed up the process toward permanent residency in Canada. Immigration Minister Marco Mendocino announced the plans to help people living in Hong Kong amid the Chinese clampdown on democracy.
As daily life for Hong Kongers continues to unfold under a cloud of uncertainty, we have a unique opportunity to appeal to the hopes and aspirations of those who may well be casting their eyes abroad and looking at Canada as a place to live, work, and settle as generations have before them. Which brings me to the reason why we are here. Today, I'm pleased to announce that we are creating new and expedited immigration pathways for those living in Hong Kong to come to Canada.
The United States surpassed 1 million new confirmed coronavirus cases since the beginning of November. Health authorities and public officials report that hospitals are becoming more and more overwhelmed.
Our worst nightmare right now for any one of us physicians or healthcare workers is having to choose between a patient in a car accident and a patient with COVID. I tell you this in all sincerity, Oklahoma. we are in trouble. Our local and state healthcare resources are approaching their limits. And if nothing is done soon to slow the rise in cases, our hospitals will be more overwhelmed than they already are, and we won't be able to be there for all of those who need it.
The top infectious disease expert in the U.S. says the first COVID-19 vaccines could be deployed as early as next month and early again into the next year. Dr. Anthony Fauci does not believe the U.S. will need to go into lockdown if everyone doubles down on wearing masks and physically distance. The U.S. leads the world with more than 241,000 deaths attributed to the virus, along with 10 million coronavirus cases. As the Bahamas experienced a second wave of the novel coronavirus, Samaritan's Purse came alongside the island nation to provide emergency medical aid. Samaritan's Purse doctors and nurses offered critical care at a 28-bed field hospital specially designed to treat COVID-19.
Here in the Bahamas, they've actually seen an uptick in their cases, and as the cases have risen, there are clusters of more and more patients that are becoming infected. So there's a really steep increase in the number of cases, and with that, the hospital has gotten to the point to where they've run out of capacity. Where there's a need for health care like this, there's also a lot of hurting, and there's also a lot of people that are really struggling, and that's where we come in.
Our response here is to help the Princess Margaret Hospital. We are taking care of patients, but we are also training the staff here. We are going to help teach them how to protect themselves so that they can protect their patients and also the entire country and their island. The majority of us that are here have already treated COVID in other places. I'm a task-oriented person. My desire is to try to make sure that we take care of the job. God has really been speaking to my heart and telling me, Regina, this is not about the task. It's about the person that is before you.
It was nice that the flurries finally ended and we saw some warmer temperatures today, but don't put the shovel away just yet. More snow is on the way. Full weather details are on deck. It was a slippery commute to and from work once again today, and more of the white stuff is on the way. Jeanette Rocher is here now with all of the weather details. Jeanette, we may see more snow mixed with rain, then hopefully it'll be clearing up just a little bit.
Yes, exactly, but it won't start clearing up until around a Sunday. We could have a bit of a windy night in store for us this evening with the west wind gusting to 60 kilometers per hour at times and a low of -5 overnight tonight. Into tomorrow, that's when we could see that 30% chance of flurries or rain showers. High of 4 degrees tomorrow. Could feel chillier in the morning, especially might feel more like -13 with that wind chill. We're going to see some gusty wind tomorrow as well. Friday night, we're going to continue to see that rain mixed with snow. Periods of snow continuing into Saturday with a high of 0. And then finally on Sunday, like I said, the sun will come out, high of 1 degree. 4 degrees is our expected high for Monday, and Tuesday we could see it go as high as 9 degrees and then back down to 2 for next Wednesday with a mix of sun and cloud. Now the almanac tells us that our average high this time of year should be right around 5 degrees, average low -7. Our high temperature on this day was right here in 1999. It was 22 degrees, and our chilliest day on record was -28, and that happened back in 1986. The sun rose this morning at 7:39 a.m. and our sun set this evening 4:52 p.m. So right around 7-8 minutes before the 5 o'clock hour. So we're getting those sunsets in the 4 o'clock hour now. Rain expected tomorrow morning in Victoria and Vancouver, high of 10 in Victoria, 8 in Vancouver. Edmonton could see some sunshine, maybe getting a little cloudy later on in the day with a high of 1 degree. Mix of sun and cloud expected in Calgary tomorrow as well. -2 expected to be the high in Saskatoon, 0 in Regina under sunny skies, -1 the high over in Winnipeg with lots of sunshine as well. And again, with those wind chill factors, could feel a little bit cooler as well. Now over here in this area here, Montreal, Toronto, Ottawa, all could see rain showers expecting around the afternoon, about 30% chance of rain tomorrow afternoon for those areas. And then as we look further east into Atlantic Canada, 7 degrees the high here for Charlottetown with a mix of sun and cloud. St. John's, 6 degrees with a mix of sun and cloud as well. 8 degrees expected in Fredericton and 9 degrees over in Halifax. So there you go, that is your weather.
Loblaw Companies is raising its dividend by 2 cents after reporting higher than expected third quarter results. Loblaw says it had a profit attributable to common shareholders of $342 million. That is up from $331 million a year earlier. Food retail same-store sales gained 6.9% in the quarter. Drug retail same-store sales climbed 6.1%. On an adjusted basis, Loblaw says it earns $464 million or $1.30 per diluted share ahead of the $1.26 analysts have been expecting. Calfrac Well Services says its third quarter losses widened as revenue fell 68% from a year ago. The Calgary-based company is reporting a loss of $50 million in the quarter. That is down from a loss of $29.4 million from 2019. Revenue dropped to $127.8 million from $399.2 million in the same quarter last year, but was up 40% from the second quarter. Calfrac also announced its capital budget for this year has been further reduced from $55 to $40 million. As the pandemic pushes shoppers online, retailers and carriers are preparing for a busy holiday shipping surge that could delay deliveries. FedEx and UPS are ramping up hiring in many regions, while stores are expanding curbside pickup.
You know, we are warmed up for what we're calling the Shipathon. Like everything else in 2020, this is going to be an unprecedented peak season. Post-COVID, we've actually seen 3 years of growth in e-commerce pull forward. So we are expecting a ton of volume. We're ready for it. We are hiring 70,000 new team members to gear up. And the expansion to weekend is important from a consumer and a competitive differentiation perspective because it allows us to get things faster, but it also helps us dramatically lower our costs.
And now here's a concept that is straight out of a sci-fi film. Music and sounds beam straight into your head, no headphones required. Israeli sound specialists Noveto Systems are debuting a system that creates a personal sound bubble, allowing listeners to hear their music and video games without disturbing others around them. Noveto says it is working on a smaller and smarter prototype with hopes that it will be released for Christmas in 2021. That's something I bet you a lot of parents are really looking forward to. Now, here's a look at today's markets. The TSX was down 191 points in the day to finish at 16,582. The Dow was down 317 to 29,080. The S&P 500 was down 35 points to 3537. And the Nasdaq was down 76 points to 11,709. West Texas Intermediate Oil was down 54 cents to $40.91 US per barrel. Natural gas was down 8 cents to $2.95 US. Gold was unchanged at $18.7683 US an ounce, and silver was unchanged at $24.28 US an ounce. Wheat is at $265 per metric ton. Barley's also at $265. Canola's at $5.58, and corn is at $274 per metric ton. Live cattle were down 43 cents to $111.98. Feeder cattle were up 53 cents to $140.73, and lean hogs were up $1 to $65.80. The Canadian dollar was up slightly over the past 24 hours to 76.10 US. Recapping one of our top stories this hour, AHS has confirmed that Winston Churchill High School is on watch status. The agency says the school now has 6 cases of the novel coronavirus. The province puts a school on its watch status if there are 5 or more cases of the virus. The affected individuals have been contacted and are now self-isolating. The Lethbridge School Division says the school will remain open. Giving kids an education is one of the most important things we can do for them. Now that's according to Dana Holland, founder of Bold and Brave, a business that instills confidence in young people. Dana Holland will have more shortly with an interview with Jeanette Rocher. But first, here's a look what's happening in and around your community.
Here's your Bridge City News community calendar. It's that time of year again. The Old Man River Potters Guild Christmas sale is taking place from now until the 15th at number 2, 4416 First Avenue South. Find that unique gift for someone special. This sale features a wide assortment of pottery and ceramics. For details, visit oldmanriverpottersguild.com. The Lethbridge Senior Citizens Organization is looking for volunteers to take part in their Drive Happiness program. This program is to help seniors in our community who are facing extreme loneliness due to lack of accessible transportation. Volunteers will drive clients to their medical appointments, pick up groceries, and take them to important life activities. If you're interested in this opportunity and for more information, call 403-332-4320 or email volunteer@volunteerlethbridge.com. The Ho Ho Holiday 5K is the most festive fun run in Canada. Combining the magic of the holiday season with community engagement and fitness, this fun run helps raise funds to support Make-A-Wish Canada. Each registration includes a Santa suit, finisher's medal, a holiday treat, and timing app. Beginning November 25th until December 31st, you can join thousands of Santas virtually across Canada, spreading Christmas cheer and helping support Make-A-Wish Canada. For more information, visit hohoholidayfivek.com. And that's your Bridge City News Community Calendar.
Trying to navigate your teen years isn't always easy, especially in today's world of social media. Today's teens seem to face so many more challenges than they ever have before. My next guest has started a new business endeavor called Bold and Brave to help empower youth to find their voice, their value, and their self-respect, among other things, of course. Dana Holland, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much. Very excited to be here.
Awesome. So, Dana, I have to say you are very brave to be starting up a business in this COVID environment when so many others are shutting their doors. You're taking on a whole new endeavor. So congratulations, by the way. You really are bold and brave.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
So Dana, tell me, what is Bold and Brave all about? How did you start it?
Well, Bold and Brave is basically a program that is meant to really help youth. And I guess in turn, it's something that's for everyone. How I look at things is that if you are able to encourage the youth that are around us, there will be a ripple effect. So it'll affect their siblings, their family, their friends, and eventually the community. There's really no stopping these kids. They're going to continue to move forward. And so if we can provide things that build their confidence, I really felt that was super important here at this time.
Mm-hmm. How did you get the idea for it? Are you thinking back to your own youth, perhaps?
There's a portion of that. I know that to me, there wasn't a lot of things that I could go to or that I was confident in looking into, I guess. I wanted to make Bold and Brave something that anyone felt they could go to, felt that they could reach out to, felt they could be part of that community. And it's very much an all-inclusive program, community business. I've been able to speak at a few different programs, which I loved, and I was grateful that they were here and that there's lots of different programs around the city. And I really give accolades to all the people who have gone before me, who help youth. I think that that's an amazing thing and an amazing endeavor. And I just felt there was some things that were being missed. And that's kind of where Bold and Brave came in. I wanted to kind of hit the niches and the different kids that maybe other programs weren't hitting, or maybe they weren't as in the media as much. Maybe they aren't known. And I felt like we could work together within the community, and maybe I pass on people and let them know, hey, there's these other programs with the whole goal of working together to build kids.
Mm-hmm. So how does the program work exactly?
So right now, being that, like you stated, it's during the COVID time, so a lot of people don't know who I am. They don't know why I'm here. They're just saying, you're just a new person who wants to meet with my kids. So for me, during COVID, we wanted to start out with doing some workshops and putting out basically the information and what we're trying to teach. So there's programs out there that last for weeks at a time, which I think are excellent. But for us, we're going to start out with workshops and really let what we're teaching come out through the youth to promote what we're trying to do.
Okay, so what made you start this now? Is this an idea you've had for a while?
Yeah, I remember back in probably 2012, 2013, I had this thought. But I think at that point, I could probably attest that I probably wasn't as bold or brave as I am now. And I felt, and I know that's totally a play on words and whatnot, but I really felt that at that point I wasn't prepared. Um, Maybe I didn't have the resources, maybe wasn't confident enough. There's a lot of different things going on during that time, but I recently had a few conversations with some people earlier this year, and a few of them were like, "Well, what's your plan?" And I was like, "I don't necessarily have one." They're like, "Well, why don't you make one?" And it was just something as simple as that from a few people who believed in me, who thought that there was a need, that made me literally sit down for about a month um, and get a ton of things together, reached out to a ton of people that I knew, and got the whole ball rolling with our name and with getting things out there and realizing there was so much I needed to do. So I just did it.
Good for you. Congratulations. So why is it so important for you to mentor youth? What is your message to youth?
I think that's a very good question. I think I want youth to know, and any teen to know, that they're important beyond measure. Their lives matter, that they have so much potential, and their opportunities to do so much in this world is beyond what they can even imagine, and lots of times beyond what lots of the adults around them can imagine. You look at lots of the people who have done some major things in life, and I bet you there wasn't everyone saying, "Oh yeah, you're going to do that." They just did it. And I think that's one of the coolest pieces to this program, that I want every teen that comes um, to know they're welcome, to know that they're able, to know that they can accomplish anything as long as they have grit and they pursue their dreams and they do the things they need to do, like get educated about things they're interested about. Okay, how do you do that? You go find somebody who knows about it, and give them these tools and these skills to help them realize that really anything's possible, regardless. I guess a huge part is regardless of your situation.
And what are the age group of the kids that we're talking?
Age groups for right now. So we're basically ranging between 11 and 14, or sorry, 11 and 18. Our workshops we're putting on right now are just for the young ladies. Right now, we're doing 11 to 14 for the workshop 1, and workshop 2 is 15 to 18. And we plan to have some workshops for the young men starting in February of 2021.
Okay, yes, and I believe your husband Carl is kind of taking this on with you. And will he be more or less mentoring the young men while you mentor the young ladies?
We're going to kind of play it two ways. We have a bunch of different people that we're working with. I have a local counselor who's been working with me. I have another good friend from Tabor who basically is in basically design arts. She's been doing a ton with me. And I have a couple different like masters, people who are working on their masters in psychology, and who are very much into outdoors, who are other presenters. We also are working with someone from the University of Lethbridge who's one of the hammer throwers. So we have lots of different people that we're reaching out to. We also have someone who's a self-defense instructor. So our goal was to reach all different niches of all different people who have a bunch of different interests, because this isn't just a one size fits all.
Okay, so these would be like your keynote speakers and some other people that you're bringing in to help mentor the youth. So you were saying part of your business is the workshops that you're planning to provide. So tell us about these workshops. What can these kids expect?
A huge part of the workshops is basically to focus on the health and wellness of kids, teens, and all those around them. So huge focus. We're going to be doing a lot of scenario type situations and things that they could encounter. We're going to have kind of planning and thoughts and just different interactive activities. We're also going to have a self-defense, and just a lot of interaction. Obviously, COVID with all the COVID rules, but still to get these teens to know that there's other kids just like them, and that if they work together, they can accomplish so much.
And I think
So
that's part of, yeah, I think part of what youth are suffering from these days is isolation. I mean, now school is back in session, but I think that was a huge thing from March on through the summers. A lot of teens were really suffering with the isolation, and this is kind of a way to bring them together, right?
Yes, and that was a huge thing with with the COVID thing, I've had people ask me why now, and for me, there's a lot of kids that need it. So I'm taking a chance with doing this now, but I feel that it's super important, and all these kids, to me, all these teams are worth it. Um, there's a quote that I wanted to kind of just share with you that one of my friends brought up on my Instagram page, and I asked her, I said, what's some times when you felt you were bold and brave? She says, when we lived in our house, a quote that we had on our wall was basically, um, sometimes sometimes all you need is 20 seconds of courage. Now, I was like, this sounds familiar. And there's actually a movie, and it was, I think we bought a zoo, and the whole idea with that is the actual quote is sometimes all you need is 20 seconds of insane courage. Um, just literally 20 seconds where it's just embarrassing bravery. And the promise is that no matter what, greatness will come with it. And so when I thought about that, I think with these youth, even if they try something and it doesn't go well for them, they know they did it. They know they tried something. They know that maybe that's not going to work for them. But in the back of their mind, they're always like, I tried that. Maybe I didn't like it. Maybe it wasn't for me, but I tried. I didn't let something stop me. I think a huge thing when I was a teenager, I let a lot of stuff stop me. Maybe I was intimidated. Maybe I was discouraged. Maybe I felt I wasn't good enough. And I think in those ways, I can relate to a lot of kids and a lot of teens and their families and just say, hey, why not try? You may not succeed, but then we can give you tools or help you build those tools that you need to succeed and to keep trying, because even Michael Jordan, he failed and he's a superstar. So I look at all the different people who they failed in life, and those failures sometimes were the best things for them because it helped them to continue to move forward.
I think you're just really talking about positive role models that these kids are needing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a huge piece.
Yeah. So you have a couple of workshops coming up soon in October, right? One's October 16th to 17th. That's for girls ages 11 to 14. And then you have another one October 23rd to 24th for the young ladies 15 to 18. So where can people go for more information about this?
Okay, perfect. So our website is boldandbrave.ca. So we played with the N, so it's just boldandbrave.ca. And then we also are on Instagram under bold_and brave, and then Facebook bold space and space brave. So there's lots of information on all those places. Yeah, our email, like our website, has the most information for everybody.
Right. And you have COVID protocols in place as well for these workshops, right?
Yes, we do. Yeah, we wanted to make sure that everyone was safe, because our priority is the safety of everyone who attends as well as their families. But we figure this is something that is worth coming out to. And in turn, these teens will, I think, get a lot out of it.
Yeah. So what can they expect? They show up at the workshops and it's like guest speakers. Are they put into different scenarios and stuff? How are they taught?
Yeah. So basically, they'll be introduced to us. We'll do an introduction with everybody there. We'll do some kind of icebreakers so that everyone can kind of just get used to being there, because that's going to be your group for the 2 days. We have a keynote speaker that night who will then go over part of her situation, or her discussion will be kind of health, mental health, and goals. And then we'll kind of conclude for the night. The next day they'll come back. We'll start right into it with self-defense with one of our other guest speakers. And then we'll do some lunch, scenario-based training afterwards with another keynote speaker and activity at the end. And so it's basically jam-packed, but good.
It does sound jam-packed. It actually sounds like a lot of fun and a great way to maybe connect with other youth and make some friends. You never know.
Yep, that's ultimately the hope. So eventually we hope to do some different events around the city where we kind of host them with other businesses. We're hoping to do one in November where people can get out with their families and do different things. And we just really want it to become a community-based business that everyone within the family can feel like they can reach out and be part of.
Well, excellent. I wish you all the best, Dana, with this brand new endeavor.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Looks like we are closely running out of time, but Dana Holland, founder of Bold and Brave, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
As COVID-19 cases continue to rise in many regions across the country, the way provinces are handling the pandemic seems to vary. To talk about this in more detail is one of our regular contributors, journalist Brian Lilly, joining me once again from Toronto. Brian, it's code red in Manitoba and the province is going back into lockdown mode. Here in Alberta, many businesses remain open. BC has invoked regional restrictions, and in Ontario, where you are, it's more of a patchwork approach, isn't it?
Yeah, and look, in Ontario, a patchwork approach makes sense because, as I like to remind people, the landmass of Ontario is almost the equivalent of California and Texas combined. Just a bit smaller than that when it comes to landmass. Or, to put it another way, I could drive from downtown Toronto, where I'm sitting right now, to Disney World, or Disneyland in Orlando, Florida, faster than I could drive to Kenora near the Ontario-Manitoba border. So, what sense does it make to put restrictions in place for Kenora based on what's happening in Toronto? So, of course, you're going to have a patchwork approach in Ontario, just like we should have in Canada. Strangely, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was out this week saying that premiers shouldn't be loosening any restrictions and we need to hunker down. Well, I'm not sure that that's necessarily the case, and I'm not sure that any of the science backs that up at this point. I understand that lockdowns were important at the beginning, but I continue to speak to people, Hal, who are epidemiologists, who are infectious disease specialists, who say, lockdowns made sense when we were in the early stages of this and we didn't know much. And, we're looking at what's happening in China with people being welded into their homes to stop the spread of COVID-19, where in northern Italy, people were fighting for ventilators just to survive, and looking at that and saying, oh, we don't want that to happen here. Everyone go home. Don't do anything. We're 8 months into this at this point. And while case numbers have been going up, hospitalizations, ICU admissions, ventilator use, all well below where we were in the spring. And we do know there are reports out about the number of opioid deaths and overdose deaths that have happened, the number of suicides. British Columbia has released direct numbers. Alberta has released direct numbers. Ontario has released a study that says, yes, they're up 40%. So there are a lot more things to consider than just COVID-19, but some people still think COVID-19 is the only public health issue to consider. Mental health doesn't matter. Addictions doesn't matter. Nothing else matters. Just get those case numbers down and start locking things up. I will say that Alberta has never gone as far as Ontario did. British Columbia never went as far as Ontario did. Manitoba did, but then they opened everything up far greater than we did in Ontario. And then their case numbers spiked and they decided, okay, go into a deep lockdown again. Maybe somewhere between deep lockdown and open everything up might be a way to go. Try and find a happy medium. Politicians don't seem to like to do that. But then again, there's a good chunk of the population, the overwhelming majority still at this point, support politicians doing lockdowns.
Brian, the restaurant industry warns that without support, they will collapse with 1.2 million jobs at stake. I've spoken to some of the local restaurant owners here in Lethbridge. They're telling me they cannot survive another shutdown, including my local Mexican restaurant that I love going to all the time. It's these little ma and pa stores. They just don't have the budgets. They can't survive.
Well, Hal, I've been talking to some of the big chain stores as well, and they say, people think that we've got oodles of money. We don't. We've got franchisees who can't pay the rent, and then you've got the head office that, well, they're not getting any money because they can't charge the franchisees the monthly franchise fee because they're not open. So they've got no money either. So straight across the board, the restaurant industry is in dire straits. And whether it is your local ma and pop shop or your local favorite chain, be it a Moxie's, an Earl's, a Jack Astor's, your favorite pizza chain, whatever it is, they are all in trouble. And they're warning that 1.2 million jobs across the country are at stake. In addition to the fact that they're dealing with provincial and local lockdown measures that go up and down. And, just this week in Toronto, after having hope given to them by the Ontario government, they had it taken away by the local provincial health officer in Toronto saying, no, you can't open up for indoor dining. You're ordering food, you're scheduling staff, and then you're having all that hope taken away. You've got your fixed cost, you've got your rent, you've got your utilities, you've got your insurance. All these things still need to be paid. Now, what I'm hearing from restaurants big and small, and from the Canadian Chamber of Commerce, from the provincial chambers of commerce, is that the federal assistance just isn't cutting it. They've brought in a new renewed rent subsidy system. If you remember the one they brought in the spring, it was horrible. A business that needed help paying their rent couldn't get it. They had to convince their landlord to apply. And a lot of landlords said, I'm not doing that. You just pay your rent. Now they've brought in one that said, you've got to be fully up to date on your rent before you can get a subsidy. Well, I can tell you here in Ontario, there have been restaurants shut down for 2 months, and they can't apply for this new federal rent subsidy, until December. December 6th is the earliest, I'm being told. So at that point, they've got to have paid 3 months rent with no cash coming in before they can get any of the money back. That is a horrible system, Hal. That is not one designed to help the businesses that we're telling, you've got to face the brunt of this. I'm not one for business subsidies. I'm not one for corporate welfare. But if the government is going to come in and say, Hal, you're a great guy, but you've got to shut down your business. Well, the government needs to be compensating you. Or as one restaurant owner put it, you've got to make me whole. You're telling me I can't make a living, but you won't give me the support. Dan Kelly, who is the national president of the Canadian Federation of Independent Business, told me at the beginning of October, if any government wants to bring in new restrictions, they better have subsidies and support in place on day one.
And we can't forget as well at the same time, Brian, we got to pay back that money too. It's nice to give out subsidies when it's needed, but at the end of the day, you got to pay the piper, right?
Yeah, so, well, the question is, you're forcing people to shut down.
Yeah.
At some point, you've got to either let them open up and make their own living or pay them to shut down. They forced them to shut down and didn't have any money available to them. So the restaurants and a lot of other small businesses, gyms and all kinds of businesses, they're the ones bearing the brunt of this. And the government, the federal government anyway, is throwing money out the door faster than they can count it. They don't even have a budget, but they have no support for businesses. It's utterly bizarre in the way that they're approaching this, other than the fact that we know in the past the federal Trudeau Liberals have declared that small businesses are tax cheats.
Unbelievable. You know what, actually, when it comes to the Trudeau Liberals, a recent Angus Reid poll says 67% of Canadians believe that the Grits have been doing a good job in dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic, Brian. But when it comes to the ballot question, the Liberals and the Conservatives are actually tied.
Yeah, now that doesn't mean that if we had an election today that anything would change, because the Conservatives lead in provinces west of the Ontario-Manitoba border, and guess what? The Liberals lead east of the Ontario-Manitoba border. And in Ontario, the Liberals are at 41%. Nationally, it's 35% for the Liberals, 33% for the Conservatives. And the Angus Reid Institute, accurately points out that's within the margin of error. That is a statistical tie. But you get to Ontario, and it's about a 7 to 8 point lead, with the Liberals at 41% and the Conservatives down at around 33, 34. So I don't see an awful lot changing if an election were held today, which might be why Prime Minister Justin Trudeau still sounds like he wants an election. None of the other parties are pushing for an election, but Trudeau continues to speak as if one's around the corner. He made a broadband announcement the other day. And, a lot of your viewers may like this idea. Provincial and federal governments of all stripes have said, look, the internet's very important. The pandemic's just accentuated that. We've got to put more money into broadband, and we're going to do it. The Harper government put money into it. The Kenney government's putting money into it. The Notley government did, and now Trudeau. But he kept making references to the Liberal government, the Liberal government. Normally, governments don't name their party while they're making official government policy announcements. They talk about our government. They may occasionally talk about the previous government without naming their party, But this was very partisan, and I think it shows that Justin Trudeau still wants an election because he knows that with the support of urban Eastern Canada, he can still win.
Brian, let's talk about what's happening south of the border, what's evolving there. Donald Trump's legal challenges are out there. Everybody knows about it. But what happens if they fall flat and Joe Biden does actually become the next U.S. president? Will that potentially be good news for helping to get back Canadians Michael Spavor and Michael Kovrig home from China? How much do you think the Biden administration will help?
I don't see them helping. I've seen some commentary, including from some people that I respect. Former NDP leader Thomas Mulcair, who is a smart guy, was saying, "Oh, this can only be good news." Well, no, you've got to pay attention to what Biden's policy is on China, and it's not going to be very different than Donald Trump's. I know people want to think that Biden and Trump are going to be so different. It's night and day. Not when it comes to China. Being against China is now a bipartisan policy. 10 plus years ago, being in favor of welcoming China into the New World Order, into the global community, whatever term you want to use, that was considered a bipartisan policy. All the parties were like, yeah, let's bring China in. If we're more open to China, they'll be more open to us and they will change. That hasn't happened. And so Biden is as anti-China as Donald Trump was. He's not going to change the policy toward TikTok. He's not going to change the policy towards Huawei. And if the policy towards Huawei doesn't change, if he does not say drop the prosecution against Mademoiselle in Vancouver, then guess what? Michael Kovrig and Michael Spavor are not coming home. They are effectively hostages for the Huawei CFO. So I don't see that changing. There are a lot of political observers in the United States who pay close attention to these things and say there's no appetite in Congress to change it. So I don't see it changing here and helping the two Michaels come home. As much as I wish that anything would help them come home, this won't be it.
Brian, if or when Joe Biden does become U.S. president, will we see a president with less protectionist policies? I'll give you an example, no more tariffs on Canadian aluminum and steel?
No, and I could just leave it at that. I could just say no, but let me explain. A lot of people think Donald Trump was the most protectionist American president ever. That's not the case. Barack Obama was incredibly protectionist and invoked an awful lot of policies that were detrimental to Canada and our economic interests. The media just didn't cover them in the same way is part of the problem. They didn't obsess over them. But the Buy America provisions in the 2008-2009 Recovery Act that Obama brought in were horrific for Canada. And it took us years to fight them. But in the meantime, guess what? All kinds of money flew out the door in infrastructure projects that Canadian companies were banned from bidding on, that Canadian products could not be a part of. So you might have a company in the States that has a supplier of a certain type of product, be it steel or iron, and they want to bid on a project to build something on the infrastructure side in the States. They were banned from bidding on that if they used the Canadian supplier. That was horrible, and the Harper government spent years fighting that. George W. Bush wasn't as bad as Obama, but we probably had two really good presidents in terms of protectionism, and that's a relative term. Bill Clinton was not bad. He had a great relationship with Jean Chrétien, and Chrétien could call him and try and patch things over. Brian Mulroney had a similar relationship with Ronald Reagan, but American protectionism comes out of Congress, and every American president, Democrat or Republican, has to deal with that, and they're all protectionist. Democrats are more protectionist than Republicans normally. Trump's not a normal Republican, but normally Democrats are more protectionist. So I don't see an awful lot changing. Maybe the tone will change, but the protectionism will still be there.
Brian, we only have about a minute left here, but I wanted to talk to you about this interesting story here. A Liberal MP has been forced to sit as an independent after being caught not only hiring her sister, which is against the rules, but also hiding this fact from the public. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, not only hired her sister, but had her sister change her name. This is Yasmin Ratsani. She's a Liberal MP from Toronto, well, now an independent MP. She was an MP from several years up until the 2011 election, and her sister had worked in the office. But in 2012, they changed the rules and they said, you know what, we already say you can't hire your spouse or your kids. Now you can't hire your siblings because there's too much abuse. And this was all parties voted for it. She got back in 2015, hired her sister again under a different name. So she not only broke the rules, she knew she was breaking the rules. But as I said in a recent column, Hal, look, the fish rots from the head down. And when you've got a prime minister who's guilty of 2 ethics violations already, under investigation for a 3rd, is it any wonder that you've got one of the MPs turning around and doing something like this? There's a problem in the Liberal Party with ethics.
Toronto Sun columnist Brian Lilly, thanks for joining me today from Toronto.
Thank you, Hal.
On behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News, I'm Hal Roberts. God bless and thanks for watching.